And here we are on a beautiful Friday morning, Rascal Flatts. Rob, I know you love country and you always love our choice of music.
I actually do like that. That's pretty good.
Good.
Better than some of the choices that we make on music around here, but
I like it.
I won't say anything.
Producers, I like it. Good morning. You're watching Fox and Friends First on this Friday. I'm Jackie Ibanez in for Jillian Mealy.
And I'm Rob Schmidt. Good morning to you. Happy Friday. Thanks for starting your day with us. 1 minute after the hour now, straight to our top story. A quote here, "This is real collusion" from the president. Overnight, President Trump demanding an investigation into bombshell allegations that the DNC rigged the nomination back in 2016 for Hillary Clinton.
And Democrats also now ripping their own party. Griff Jenkins live in our nation's capital this morning with the brand new details. Griff, what a story.
What a story. Good morning, Jackie and Rob. Shocking revelations, but not a surprise. And now it's official. The system was rigged. The former interim chair of the DNC, Donna Brazile, hammering Hillary Clinton in a new book about the 2016 election, revealing in an excerpt published in Politico that under her predecessor, Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, quote, the DNC was rigging the system to throw the primary to Hillary. President Trump overnight demanding an investigation, tweeting, "This is real collusion and dishonesty. Major violation of campaign finance laws and money laundering. Where is our Justice Department?" Brazile says the Clinton campaign raised $10 million to retire 80% of the party's debt, but at a steep price. She wrote, quote, "In exchange for raising money and investing in the DNC, Hillary would control the party's finances, strategy, and all the money raised." She added that, quote, her campaign, meaning Hillary's, had the right of refusal of who would be the communications director, and it would make final decisions on all other staff. That agreement, according to Brazile, coming 4 months after Clinton announced her candidacy and nearly a year before she secured the nomination. Democrats, like Senator Elizabeth Warren, says this has to be addressed.
You have got to put together a Democratic Party in which everybody can have confidence that the party is working for Democrats rather than Democrats are working for the party.
Do you agree with the notion that it was rigged?
Yes.
Now, in a statement to Fox News, Debbie Wasserman Schultz says she's, quote, proud of her work at the DNC. The Clinton campaign didn't respond to our request for comment, and no comment from Bernie Sanders either. Guys, it will be interesting to see if Brazile addresses in her book whether or not she used her role as a CNN commentator to steer debate questions to Clinton in advance. We all remember that. It's going to be a good read.
Yeah, it is, isn't
That's
it?
a good
And
point.
it's interesting how when these books come out, all of a sudden these big revelations are surrounding the book.
Yeah, because they can make money off of it. Griff, thanks so much.
Thank you, Griff. Well, President Trump said all along, Rob, that the system was rigged, and finally there is proof that he was right. Listen.
The DNC, Democratic National Committee, rigged the Democratic election, the primary process, to take it away from Bernie and give it to Hillary Clinton.
And this is a really big story. I mean, it really is. I mean, this has huge repercussions on who's running the country right now, even possibly. I mean, you start to wonder if this would have been a fair fight. Would Bernie have gotten the nomination? What would a Bernie-Trump matchup look like in the general election? I mean, this is a really big story. Let's listen to RNC spokesperson Kayleigh McEnany.
It looks like President Trump was proven absolutely correct. Hillary was always crooked. The system was always rigged. I know Juan says this isn't shocking, but it is deeply shocking, particularly to New York Times reporter Ken Vogel, who asked about this, and the DNC said, "You're off base. This didn't happen." Well, what did happen was there was basically quid pro quo corruption. The DNC was having their debt absolved by Hillary Clinton, and in return, Hillary Clinton, of course, got to control the DNC. And not only that, they were silencing Democratic voters. And remember, fabricating stories about Bernie Sanders during the primary, their own candidate.
You know, a lot of people just saying the Clintons, they seem bulletproof. So the big question this morning, Rob, did Hillary Clinton break the law this time? Our very own Greg Jarrett was on Hannity last night. Here's what he had to say about that.
There is a difference between her paying for the dossier and Trump-Russia so-called collusion, but not in the way she means. What she did appears to have been a crime. It's a crime to give money to a foreign national in a political campaign. That's what she did. It's not a crime for Donald Trump Jr. to talk to a Russian lawyer or George Papadopoulos to talk to a Russian during the campaign.
Really big story and more allegations against Hillary Clinton of wrongdoing in this whole thing. And we're just going to have to wait and see where this all goes to and whether or not the DOJ is going to look into this as the president is asking for. So we want to know what you think about this as this all gets underway and the investigation begins. Send us your comments. Email, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you want. We'll take them.
We read them all and we like to respond as well. All right. Well, a Fox News alert breaking overnight for you. ISIS claiming responsibility for the deadly terror attack in New York City, calling the driver a soldier of the caliphate. The terror group praising suspect Saifullah Saipov in their weekly newsletter, claiming that he hurt or killed 60 people, when in reality we know he killed 8 people, 12 others were injured. Police say the Uzbekistan native was inspired by ISIS and had 90 propaganda videos on his cell phone. Brian Yennis will have a live report from New York with the latest on the investigation in just a few minutes.
Former Trump campaign chair Paul Manafort and his associate Rick Gates will remain under house arrest at least through the weekend. The judge deeming them flight risks and also considering a gag order in this case. Manafort and Gates, the first to be charged in special counsel Robert Mueller's probe into Russian interference from back in the 2016 election. Both will return to court on Monday when the judge will consider their release.
Well, North Korea on the top of the president's priority list as he prepares for what he calls the most important trip any president has ever made.
Over 10 days, he will meet with crucial U.S. allies to discuss the growing nuclear threat from North Korea. Amy Kellogg joins us live now from Rome, Italy, with a preview of that. Amy.
Hi, Rob and Jackie. Well, this will be Trump's longest overseas trip as president. And really, broadly speaking, there are 2 main issues on this trip, and those are security and trade. And security, of course, means reducing or removing the threat that's posed by North Korea. So far, obviously, the international community has not been able to figure out a way to rein in North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and his nuclear program. How will Kim react while Trump is on the Korean peninsula? That is one of his stops, South Korea. The North Korean president, as you may recall, has called Trump in the past a, quote, mentally deranged U.S. dotard. Meanwhile, 2 U.S. bombers carried out an exercise off the Korean peninsula yesterday. The Pentagon says this was simply pre-planned. They were launched from a base in Guam. North Korea has accelerated its missile and nuclear testing in the last year, some say surpassing the expectations of the international community in terms of its technological advances. But just ahead of this trip, Trump sounded an optimistic, if defiant note for stopping this.
I must tell you, North Korea is a thing that I think we will solve, and if we don't solve it, it's not going to be very pleasant for them. It's not going to be very pleasant, I guess, for anybody. But China is helping us.
Trump will meet with Chinese leader Xi Jinping on this trip. And of course, China is considered the key to resolving the North Korean issue. A senior U.S. official said just yesterday that while the U.S. and China are working closer together than ever on this particular issue, the U.S. still expects China to do more. But Rob and Jackie, here is where the really delicate bit comes in, because Trump has made it clear he wants to secure fairer trade deals and better trade deals for the U.S. with several Asian countries, including China and mainly China. So he has to be careful not to alienate Xi Jinping and others in order to keep them close on North Korea.
Yeah, there's
Jackie and Rob, back to you.
Array of topics to discuss in Asia right now. A lot of different things on the table. Thank you so much, Amy.
Thanks, Amy.
All right, a big transition here. We're going to go over to sports. The World Series champion Houston Astros being honored by their hometown today.
After beating the LA Dodgers in Wednesday's Game 7, the city celebrating the team's first ever championship with a downtown parade and a rally this afternoon. It's the city's first pro sports championship since the Houston Rockets won the NBA title. That was back in 1995.
And we love to see that. Some good people in Houston, Texas. Close to 30 million fans watched the World Series. Game 7, the second most watched game since 2002. So this World Series did fairly well, and it doubled NFL ratings, although it's not really comparing apples to apples here, but down to an average of 15 million viewers for the past 2 seasons, which involved, or I should say 2 weeks, I assume, which involved national anthem protests.
I got to say, I prefer baseball.
Yeah, well, it's a national pastime. All right, 10 minutes after the hour, after the New York terror suspect took advantage of the Visa lottery program to get into our country, President Trump now calling on Democrats to help him scrap that program.
This kid came in through a lottery system, and I think we're going to get even Democrat support on this.
And the president making a bold push to pass his newly unveiled tax reform plan.
We are giving them a big, beautiful Christmas present in the form of a tremendous tax cut. It will be the biggest cut.
A big present there. Our next guest, Representative Jim Renacci, on whether or not Congress can deliver that package on time for Christmas.
And do you remember the ESPN anchor suspended for calling the president a racist and some other things? How the network is being called out again for its political bias. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back. House Republicans unveiling their plan for tax reform, and President Trump says he wants it on his desk before the holidays.
I really believe we'll have it done before Christmas. I consider that to be one of the great Christmas presents. And not just the reform and not just the tax cuts, but we will be creating jobs like you have rarely seen in this country.
Joining us now, Ohio Congressman and member of the House and Ways and Means Committee, Jim Renacci. Good morning. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, well, let's break this down. Let's get to the meat and potatoes of all of this. Tell us the big parts of this plan that you think are so important for Americans.
Well, the big thing is we're dropping the corporate tax rate, which we have to. We have to be competitive across the world. I was a businessman for almost 30 years, and I can tell you the number one thing that we aren't is competitive now. That's why companies are inverting. So the more we can keep companies here, the more we can give them more money to be able to employ more people and grow, and the more we can make them maintain that competitiveness by having a lower tax rate. That's a start. The other thing we have to do is lower middle income tax rates so that people have more to help drive the economy. The goal of this tax plan is really to come up with a sustained growth plan, not just a short-term growth plan. So you drop the corporate rates so that we can have that sustained growth, and corporations aren't leaving anymore. They're staying here. In fact, wouldn't it be great if corporations from overseas came here because of our rate? And
we just saw a little bit of that from Singapore, I think just yesterday or the day before when the announcement was made. We're starting to see that happen, and I think people love that. Democrats, of course, are fighting this, saying that this is a cut for the rich, a cut for the people that are already doing great, and you're going to take it away from the people in the middle and the lower class. Explain to me why, in your opinion, I know you think they're wrong. Why do you think they're wrong?
Well, that's politics as usual. I say that all the time. Wait, look, the Democrats are a minority. They want to get to the majority. Of course they're going to attack this plan. There's always good things in a plan and bad things in a plan, but here's the positive things in this plan. It does lower middle income tax rates, and that's important. The higher tax rates, the 39%, individuals, they're not going to get as much of a break as the lower income tax individuals, and that's what's important. So that's the key to this plan. We've designed it and worked on it to make sure that it drives the middle class to have more money.
But just real quick, how do they then make that argument that the middle class and the lower class are getting hurt on this? Where does that argument come from, is my question.
Well, you know what, I've heard their arguments, and again, I'm a business guy and a CPA. I've done tax returns, I've driven businesses. I understand what it really does to have a lower tax rate, but also I understand the tax code, and I'm going to tell you, the things that we've put in here, the provisions for the child tax credit, the doubling the standard deduction, these are things that are going to help middle Americans. I'll be interested to see when the Democrats come up with their specifics. Now, they will, and they'll take shots at it because that's what they have to do in the minority. But in the end, I'm hoping they'll come on board and say, this is good for America. Get politics out of the way. Let's make sure we have a strong American economy.
All right, so we're going from 7 tax brackets down to 4 tax brackets. Republican Kevin Brady from Texas, Kevin Brady from Texas, he is a Republican. He says it will make possible for Americans to do their taxes on the form the size of a postcard. Well, that sounds nice, doesn't it? So cumbersome right now.
Well, that's absolutely another key issue. We've eliminated a lot of deductions, doubled the standard deduction. It makes it much easier, so a lot of people will be able to do it on a postcard, and that's the key, too. We've got to simplify this tax code for a lot of people that are working hard every day.
And did you, first of all, it's an aggressive desire by the president to have this done by the holidays. I want to ask you if that's feasible, and also, for the purposes of budget reconciliation, did you guys have to give up much? I know that you had to stay within some constraints there.
Well, that was the big key. We had to meet a budget reconciliation number, $1.5 trillion on a static basis, and I think that's important to know. And so a static basis means it doesn't take into consideration for growth. So we had to get down to that number. We had to work a number of things to get there. So the House will go to conference next week, or when I say conference, the committee will do a markup next week, and hopefully we'll get this out of the House in the next couple weeks. The Senate's doing their bill. Hopefully we can get a conference between now and Christmas and get something signed and delivered to the president's desk.
Well,
we're only some 50 days away from Christmas, right? That's what his babies do, so I know that.
That's right. That's an aggressive plan. Well, Congressman, thanks so much for coming on this morning very early. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Okay. All right, Hillary Clinton still playing the blame game while accepting the award for Democratic Woman of the Year.
I have a whole chapter on Russia because we are only at the beginning of understanding what the Russians did to affect our elections.
Oh, Hillary, but some suggest she should have gotten another award. Carly Shimkist is here with that next. Hey, good morning, Carly.
I have a whole chapter on Russia because we are only at the beginning of understanding what the Russians did to affect our elections.
Welcome back. It's now 5:23. Hillary Clinton still blaming Russia for her election loss as she accepts the award for Democratic Woman of the Year.
This coming the same day it was revealed that Hillary and the DNC allegedly rigged the election in her favor, at least according to the former head of the DNC. And such an interesting story there. Carly Shimkis with Fox News Headlines, 24/7 and SiriusXM 115 with such an interesting story.
Can't make this stuff up. That's right. A major story that broke yesterday. Former DNC chair Jana Brazil now claiming that Hillary Clinton's campaign essentially rigged the primary process. The deal was that Clinton would fundraise for the DNC, and then she would essentially just get to call the shots. Now, on the same day that that story broke, she also won a Democratic Woman of the Year award, and she accepted it, of course, with open arms. People on social media now noting this irony. Let's check out some tweets. Robert says, "I give her Criminal of the Year award, no Criminal of the Century." Another Twitter user writes, "Wow, an award for Hillary has to be a cheater award. You have no shame. Ask Donna Brazil. Rigged the nomination for Hillary Clinton." And then Bill also said kind of something similar. Did she rig that one also? So the president also chiming in. He called the DNC revelation the real collusion and dishonesty. So, you know, Hillary Clinton asked what happened. I guess this is what happened, right?
Yeah. All right.
Unbelievable.
I have no words at this point.
It's a big one.
All right, let's go over to ESPN.
Yeah, ESPN. So they released a new social media policy reminding its journalists to not make so many political statements. Stay away from politics. This after host Jemele Hill was suspended for making many political statements, including this one. Donald Trump is a white supremacist who has largely surrounded himself with other white supremacists. Well, now the company is saying this. Our engagement on social platforms should be civil, responsible, and without overt political or other biases that would threaten our or your credibility with the public. Let's see what social media has to say about this one. George says, "Hey, ESPN, are you listening? Guess what? It's too late." Frank says ESPN's new social media policy is essentially what they needed, but given how bad they let it get first, does it even matter? Another Twitter user chimed in saying, "If you really believe your premise, you would hire just some conservative viewed people. You currently do not have a diverse staff." So big deal over at ESPN. They're still battling all of this political talk at the sports network.
Yes, and Carly, the world stopped for about 10 minutes yesterday.
Yeah, that's right, because the president's Twitter account was deactivated for about 10 minutes. People on social media absolutely freaked out. The company is now explaining what happened. They said earlier today the president's account was inadvertently deactivated due to human error by a Twitter employee. The account was down for 10 minutes and has since been restored. We are continuing to investigate and take steps to prevent this from happening again. Well, guess what? The person who did that, now the company is saying, was on his last day out. So this was like the last thing they did, kind of as maybe a last hurrah. Yeah, possibly.
It cost Twitter $500 billion to not have Donald Trump for 10 minutes.
Can you?
Did it really?
No, I'm just kidding.
$500 billion.
Wow. You know what, Jackie? I believe
I mean, he is Twitter. I mean, never believe anything I say. Yeah.
on, Rob.
Thank you, Carly.
Thanks, Carly.
All right, 27 minutes after the hour now, former DNC chairwoman Donna Brazile calling out her own party, claiming the nomination was rigged for Hillary. Now other Democrats are chiming in.
You have got to put together a Democratic Party in which everybody can have confidence.
Hillary Clinton's party now in full damage control mode.
And Rob, no guns and no politics. Brand new red carpet rules for country music's biggest night. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
It was behind that bike path attack in New York City this week.
The Terror Network calling killer behind the wheel a soldier of the Caliphate. Brian Yanis live at the scene with new information this morning. Brian, good morning.
Good morning, Jackie and Rob. Behind me, a memorial, 8 crosses for the 8 victims of the terror attack along the bike path here, as New York City responds to protected citizens installing dozens of concrete barriers like these overnight to prevent vehicles from driving onto the path. Some are small, others are large, placed diagonally at intersections of the bike path along the west side of Manhattan. This, as Reuters reports, ISIS has claimed responsibility for the attack in its weekly Al Naba newsletter Thursday, though ISIS did not provide any evidence. The group called the attacker one of its Caliphate soldiers. Investigators say suspected terrorist Saifullah Saipov was radicalized in the United States, inspired to attack by ISIS propaganda. Meanwhile, chilling new details from a man who was driven by Saipov 5 days before the attack. Saipov was registered as an Uber and Lyft driver. The 34-year-old British designer and his girlfriend were picked up at Newark Airport by Saipov.
It was weird because we'd been in the taxi with him for, it was about an hour, the journey to the hotel. So we talked for a long time. Like you get an idea of a person. He seemed absolutely normal.
Investigators still believe Saipov acted alone, but the FBI has questioned his 32-year-old Uzbek friend. He's not being called a suspect, but Saipov reportedly called the man immediately before the attack. He has since condemned the attack and says that he hopes that people don't, lash out against Muslims or his religion because of this attack. Meanwhile, the New York City Marathon is this weekend. NYPD adding tons of different, more sniper teams, observation teams, and more blocker vehicles. Rob, Jackie.
All right, Brian Yanis, thank you so much. We appreciate it this morning. And in the wake of that horrific attack there, President Trump is doubling down on efforts to reform immigration. The commander-in-chief tweeting, I am calling on Congress to terminate the diversity visa lottery program that presents significant vulnerabilities to our national security. He also called for an end to chain migration.
We want a system ultimately that's merit-based so we can bring in people that will help our country, grow our country, and be safe for our country.
Chain migration is when immigrants enter the country legally to be united with a relative already living here in the U.S. The president says the New York terror suspect used it to bring 23 people into the country. And this disturbing political ad shocked the nation, and the Democrat it supports says he didn't sign off on it. But now there is new proof his campaign may have been involved. Virginia gubernatorial hopeful Ralph Northam denies approving the ad, which shows a truck chasing minority children. But finance reports show the campaign received an in-kind donation for media purposes from the Latino Victory Fund, the group behind the ad. To qualify as an in-kind donation, the candidate for campaign must request for or suggest it. And it's known as country music's biggest night, and the CMAs want to keep it about music. The awards show, hosted by Carrie Underwood and Brad Paisley, is next Wednesday night. Reporters covering the red carpet now told to stay away from asking questions about guns, politics, and the Las Vegas massacre. The rule meant to keep the artists comfortable. And Colin Kaepernick could be at the point of no return when it comes to getting back on a football team. And here's why. The Houston Texans will not ask former 49ers to become their quarterback after Deshaun Watson tore his ACL at practice. The team will replace Watson with former Oakland Raiders quarterback Matt McGloin. Hope I said that right.
I think he did. All right, thanks, Jackie. We appreciate it. Donna Brazile dropping a major bombshell yesterday on the Democratic Party's alliance with Hillary Clinton. In an excerpt from her new book called Hacks, which will soon come out, Brazile writes, "I had promised Bernie when I took the helm of the Democratic National Committee after the convention that I would get to the bottom of whether Hillary Clinton's team had rigged the nomination process," which a lot of people had suspected at the time. As Hillary's campaign gained momentum, she resolved the party's debt. It had become dependent on her campaign for survival. By September 7th, the day I called Bernie, I had found my proof, and it broke my heart. That is a major statement. Here now to react is contributor at The Hill and the Washington Examiner, Jen Kearns. This is a huge allegation from the wing woman of Hillary Clinton in a lot of this. I mean, the person that they said gave her the questions from CNN. I mean, they were all in this together. And now here comes this book. What is the allegation that she says Hillary Clinton did here?
Yeah, this is really astonishing, Rob. And Donna Brazile is really giving us an inside look as to what actually happened. A little play on words with Hillary's book tour. This is really remarkable here. It shows that in August of 2015, almost a full year before Hillary Clinton actually became the nominee. Way before, she entered into this agreement, a contract with the DNC to say that that her campaign would control the strategy, the messaging, the funds, and it would even, and this is what makes me wonder, would even have first right of refusal on who was hired as a communications director at the DNC. Now, I can tell you, I've worked for the largest state party in the nation, the California Republican Party. I know how party apparatuses work. I've done work for the RNC. This is highly, highly unusual. You don't get those kind of privileges until you become the nominee. The fact that Hillary Clinton engaged in this contract with Debbie Wasserman Schultz and the DNC almost a full year before she became the nominee is very troubling.
This is back when Debbie was running the show, and basically you think that there was just an assumption, hey, I'm doing this thing. This is my turn. I don't care who else runs. This is my show. We're going to do this. And Debbie was just complicit.
Yeah, you know, this really goes to show a couple of things. One, it goes to show how entitled Hillary Clinton was in her presumption that she was going to become the nominee. This is 25 years going of the Clintons feeling entitled to everything on the Democrat side. And it also shows us that the Democrat Party, once again, is proven to favor elitism and cronyism in their own party. It proves that, you know, when they talk about the big guy versus the little guy, which they so often do.
The party of the people, they claim,
right? Party of the people. It turns out they're big hypocrites. And you know why? Because they let party bosses and big money run their own party. And this is why the DNC is having problems with their rank and file. This is why they're having problems with the rest of America, because we see it now.
Yeah. And one last question. Would Bernie have gotten that nomination had this been a fair fight? And how do you think he would have done in the general election?
You know, it's hard to tell how he would have done in the general, but it would have been very interesting to see the populist fight on the left versus the populist fight on the right. This is something that Steve Bannon talked about on his recent 60 Minutes interview. It would have been interesting. If that had been a fair fight, it would have been a much more interesting campaign for the American people.
And Trump and Sanders, in a weird way, they connected on a lot of issues. It was very strange, but they were very different and very similar in some ways. This is all very interesting. Thank you so much for coming on this morning. We do appreciate it. All right. Let's go over to Janice now. We're going to talk some weather on this Friday. We're all hoping for a nice weekend.
Well, and same with the folks who are running the New York Marathon, right? We have rain in the forecast. We'll get to that real quick. So nice looking forecast along the coast, but we have some rain across the interior sections. Our next big storm system moves into the northwest and the Rockies, where we can see snow, heavy at times. Winter weather advisories, winter storm warnings are in effect, getting all the way south towards the Sierra, the Northern California mountainous region there. So the first big winter storm for them. We have lots of winter weather advisories posted, and here's one of the forecast models. Again, lots of snow for the higher elevations getting in towards the northern plains and the upper Midwest. Let's talk about the marathon on Sunday. A lot of folks headed to New York City. Unfortunately, it's going to be rainy. The good side of this is it's going to be warm, so just plan ahead. Hopefully it's not going to be too bad a run for you if you're headed towards New York City. And of course, we are going to fall back daylight saving time, except if you live in Arizona and Hawaii. You don't do that kind of thing, which I kind of agree with. Maybe? What do you think?
I completely agree. Although this is the good one, right?
This is the good one. We get an extra hour.
Yeah.
So we'll take this one. We don't like spring forward.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Terrible.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you, Janice. You too.
Got it.
All right, the time is now 40 after the hour.
And a controversial school program that separates children at lunch based on their grades. So is it an incentive or just public humiliation?
And after just 8 months in office, one of President Trump's favorite phrases is named Word of the Year. Here's a hint for you, Rob.
I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you stay categorically?
You are fake news.
I called the fake news the enemy of the people, and they are.
That was just fake news by NBC, which gives a lot of fake news.
All right, welcome back. 5:43 here on the East Coast. Segregating students based on their grades. A Florida high school hopes the lunchtime seating plan will help to flag students who may not be on track to graduate and give them an incentive to improve their grades. But critics say this is creating division instead of fostering encouragement. Students who are not doing well must stay inside the cafeteria, while those with good grades can go eat outside the lunchroom, in addition to other school perks as well. We'll see if it works.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, President Trump's favorite phrase named Word of the Year. Listen.
I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you stay categorically?
You are fake news.
I called the fake news the enemy of the people, and they are.
That was just fake news by NBC, which gives a lot of fake news.
So what do you think it is there, huh? Collins Dictionary saying usage of fake news is up 365% since last year, defining it as false, often sensational information disseminated under the guise of new reporting. Other finalists include echo chamber, Antifa, and fidget spinner.
Fidget spinner?
Do you have a fidget spinner?
I do have one of those things. I saw it at a mall. It's like, I'm going to get one just to see what it's all about.
Do you use it?
No.
Oh, okay.
Sits there and collects
You don't
stuff.
want to waste some money then.
All right, let's go over now and talk some movies. Thor is back for round 3, and this time he's fighting to stop the goddess of death from destroying the world.
We know each other. He's a friend from work.
So should you see it or skip it this weekend? Fox News contributor Kevin McCarthy is here with his review. Good morning.
Good morning, Rob and Jackie. And by the way, I just got to say, Big Ben is right behind me. That is pretty cool.
Wow.
I'm here in London.
Not a bad gig this morning.
I was here last night for the... Yeah, I was here for the Murder on the Orient Express premiere last night. It was very, very cool. But I do want to say the clip that you just saw at the beginning of the segment, there's the coolest story ever behind that scene. When they were shooting that scene on set, there was a Make-A-Wish kid on set that day named Darcy. And he actually was the one that came up with the line, he's a friend from work. He suggested the line to the screenwriters and the director and Chris Hemsworth. And then Hemsworth ended up actually saying that line in the film. And then he brought Darcy to the premiere of the movie, which we have a photo of. So when you watch the movie, that line, he's a friend from work, came from a Make-A-Wish kid named Darcy who was visiting the set. Really, really cool story there that it made it into the movie that way.
Oh, we love that. That's just awesome. They got to give that kid a cut of the royalties too, right? He's got a line in the movie.
I completely agree. He deserves a screenwriting credit. He really, really does. But the movie itself, Thor Ragnarok, this is the 17th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The Thor hammer in a POV shot as it's taking out the bad guys. I was geeking out beyond belief. That scene was really cool. Overall, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. I didn't think it was one of the best Marvel films. It's definitely better than Thor 2, but not as good as Thor 1. But for me, the best Marvel films so far are The Avengers, Captain America 2 and 3, Iron Man 1. There's so many great ones out there. This one definitely isn't at that level, but it's definitely enjoyable if you're a fan of the Marvel films.
Jackie's still going to go just so she can look at Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, well, how did you know that?
I think that's just a general assumption that we can all make.
All right, well, review of Bad Moms Christmas. How about that?
Yeah, Bad Moms Christmas. The first film was so great. I mean, it was a surprise hit. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I love the scene in the grocery store when they're in slow motion going through the grocery store together. This time around, we're actually meeting their mom. So Christine Baranski plays the mom of the character Mila Kunis plays. Also, Cheryl Hines is the mother of Kristen Bell's character. Then Susan Sarandon plays the mother of Catherine Hahn. The movie is R-rated. It's very, very raunchy. I will say the beginning of the movie tries really hard to create the magic of the first movie, but once you get to the middle and the end, it really gets funny. It's very emotional, but also very R-rated and raunchy. I will say not as great as the first one, but if you're a fan of the first one, you will like it. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. I still laughed. I needed a good laugh this week.
You going to that, Rob?
It's probably not for me, although I do like a dirty comedy. Those are my favorite.
I like a good comedy.
All
I don't
right.
know about a dirty one. But
It's R-rated. Yeah, and by the way, you can follow me on Twitter at Kevin McCarthy TV. I'll be tweeting about all the movies. If you have any questions, you can always just send me a tweet.
Kevin,
Thank
thanks
you.
so much.
Have a good morning. All right, let's check in with Steve Doocy to see what's coming up on Fox and Friends.
Hey, good morning to both of you. Coming up on Fox and Friends, Rob O'Neill, the man who killed Osama bin Laden, is actually going to be sitting in Brian's chair. He's going to guest host the next 3 hours. Also, there's this picture right there. That's exactly what he looks like. He's actually wearing a different tie. I just saw him in the green room. Also, did you see the national anthem out at Dodger Stadium performed by a quartet from the LA Police Department? You know what? They are going to join us live. What a great story that is. Also, it's Friday, so Geraldo's going to be with us. We've got Kevin Brady and Congressman Kevin McCarthy both going to talk about the tax cuts. And because it's Friday, TMZ's Harvey Levin's going to join us to tell us about this week's edition of Objectified with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Got a busy 3 hours. Kicks off 11 minutes from right now, right here on the channel you trust for your morning news. Fox and Friends first comes back in 2 minutes.
It's 50 the hour. It's the day Apple superfans have been waiting for. The iPhone 10 is now on sale around the world, Rob.
And it will change your life, according to Apple. Deirdre Bolton from the Fox Business Network live in New York City, where people are lining the streets for this phone. Hey, Deirdre.
That is right, Jackie and Rob. Apple fans are here. In fact, some of them have been here since yesterday morning at this time. I mean, we can note the weather is pretty mild, so maybe it's encouraging some of them to hang out a little bit longer. But if you look behind me, there's actually about 3 layers of line that kind of snake around as in Disneyland. I think there's probably about 300 people online here. I walked around the block. There's another 40 to 50 people even around the other corner. So this is a huge day for Apple. From the company's point of view, it's actually going to really test consumers' pain point, their price point. The iPhone 10 on sale for $1,000 more if you want more memory. So this is going to be a big test for Apple. Of course, this is really important ahead of the holiday season, ahead of the Christmas season. Yesterday, the CEO, Tim Cook, when asked about supply and demand, saying, we'll see how we do. There have been concerns from the analyst community that maybe there aren't even enough phones to sell for Christmas. But in the meantime, these people probably going to get one. Back to you, Jackie and Rob.
All right. Wow. Sounds very cool. Better be for $1,000.
That's a lot of dedication. Would you ever stand in line?
No, not at all. Deirdre, thanks.
All right, it is a 54 after the hour. Still ahead, he took a stolen ambulance on a joyride with a patient still inside. The video you have to see to believe.
Wow, and a driver's 8-legged nightmare landing on her dashboard and the hero cop who came to the rescue. Stay tuned.